And I am going to transition us. So there we go. All right, thank you guys for joining us. As you can see, I do have the stream chat up. I might get rid of the frame. I can't tell if that's helping or making it worse.
Get rid of the frame.
Yeah, let me find the chat window. Because it was hard to see. Like, we're good with that, Baby Yoda. Although, maybe because it's this way. There we go, that works better. Now we can see a little better. I just had to rotate which one was on top.
Okay.
Perfect. So as you guys know, Syrin's going to be in charge of this. She'll be doing the interview. So I'm ready for whatever questions. Let's go.
Well, hello, my fellow community of Antibearo. Let's just get started. So, Clay, you basically created your own game system from the ground up. Can you tell us how your system differs from all the other ones, like Dungeons and Dragons, Monsters of the Week, etc.?
That's probably the best question anyone has ever asked me about my game, because usually people jump and they're like, "Oh, so it's like D&D," and I'm like, as much as other dice games are, yes. So in short, I mean, the big things I think that separate my game are the personality skills. First off, I have a whole section of that. Those are always uniquely given to players based on the choices they've made, the plot direction they're moving in, because obviously, like, you know, you send in your concept and whatnot, I prove it, we talk about it, all that. And I do try and keep those as canonly on point as I can. I would say, other than that, it would be the rapport system that I have in the game. With the rapport system, you can earn enough points to convince an NPC to join the party. You can convince them to do something that they normally might not agree to without you charisma checking them, but instead you can basically pull on that friendship instead of having to roll for it. It's even, if you have enough points, it's 15 to start a relationship arc with somebody, you know, and you cash all those in and you can start dating whatever NPC you've stumbled across. As long as the NPC is, of course, like, interested in you as well, because I usually do roll for NPCs orientations and stuff like that. So you cannot convert a gay or like a lesbian to, you know what I mean, go with against their normal flow. Same thing with like an asexual character. You wouldn't be able to probably have too many I don't want to say romantic, but too many physically intimate moments with them. We don't usually do sex in roleplay, but we have alluded to sex in roleplay, so you might not be able to say conceive a child with them or something like that, or it could be more difficult to do so. But yeah, I would say those are the two biggest features: the rapport system and the personality skills.
So, what inspired you to make your own game system?
So literally way back in middle school, I just had so many friends and we all wanted to do stuff. And, you know, I've told people before, I'm from a poor small town. And so a lot of my friends didn't want to play D&D because they felt like it was too difficult, too challenging. They wanted something a little more mainstreamed. So I created a very simple tabletop for them to play. And since then, it has evolved quite a bit. It's now much more complicated and it probably wouldn't have suited its initial purpose, but I've evolved it with like the minds, you know, middle schooler can only handle so much versus somebody who's already an adult, you know what I mean?
So, have you played at anybody else's table, or are you designated the forever GM?
I have only played with someone else being in charge like a handful of times. I've never actually joined like a campaign where I was able to play as a player. And normally when I do have the opportunity to play a character, I play like a really psychologically twisted character. Because when else will you have the opportunity? So like I gotta do the crazy stuff.
And this obviously isn't your first campaign that you've set in this world, in this universe.
Right.
What do new viewers and even new players need to know as they go in?
So even though I have already told a campaign in this world, this campaign is its own entity. So really going in blind is totally fine. Like there's nothing that you're gonna miss out on from not having previously played the other campaign or whatever. Obviously, I did not stream that campaign. I've changed some of the events that happened in that campaign as well and deleted quite a few. So it is kind of like a gently touched world, but for the most part, everything is exactly whatever you guys end up making it to be. So,
All right. So now we'll just start talking about this campaign and this table. So tell me, who is at your table and who do they play?
okay. So right now, obviously, we've got the lovely Syrin, who is with me, and she is playing Ray, who is, without giving too much away about your backstory and stuff, somebody who has suffered some trauma, we'll say, is a bounty hunter, for lack of better words, and isn't afraid to get their hands dirty when necessary. They're not going to have that moral dilemma of should I pull the trigger or should I not pull the trigger. Yeah. Then we have Bobasu, who's playing Moxie. She is the leader of this group, basically, which formed together in order to protect themselves from being vulnerable to the magical community, as well as falling prey to the rumors of corporate hunting, as some, I can't say if it's confirmed or not, but there are rumors abound in the magical community that the major corporations and the VIPs have been abducting magical beings. So this group was formed in response to that and the dangers of already being a magical being. Mox owns a repair shop, and it just seemed like the perfect cover to be able to hire everyone on, have an excuse of why you're always around each other, and that's pretty much Mox's thing. That, and of course, Mox is an illegal android who's operating their own business with a fake human identity, but that's a whole other thing. Then, of course, we've got Courtney at the table. Courtney is playing Zen, but I believe Zentara is the full name, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I only remember the joke because Zendedia is stuck in my head from last session. But yes, so Zen is also an android character who, at this point, most people can probably assume, and I'll give this a little bit. She originally was a companion bot that has basically grown beyond her initial programming. So she, like Mox, is sentient AI that has decided that they want more out of life. And so through her journey, she was also given the gift of magic, like Mox was. Not to confuse people, but magical beings can both be born and created in the magical community. To create a magical being, the process is called the parting, and it requires somebody of significant power to essentially sacrifice some of their magic to turn you magical as well. So you find that mostly with people who are very intimate with each other, is I guess what I should say, whether they're like family or lovers or whatever. It's not something you would casually do. And then, of course, we've got Mr. Bear at the table. Mr. Bear is playing Tuck. Tuck, as everyone now canonly knows, so it is not a secret, is the son of two very high up, very powerful members of the Corp, which he has yet to explain exactly how high up and how powerful they are. However, when they found out about the 1 trillion TerraPoint bounty on his head for his recovery, that did kind of insinuate they're near the top rather than near the bottom. Tuck is a hacker. He is very much against the oppressive nature of Terra City as a whole, and he is kind of like your Siddhartha character, where he was raised to be one way, and then when he learned what was actually happening in the world, he went a different direction.
So far in the campaign, have any of your players surprised you at the table? Like with their choices and
Yeah, there are a few moments that I can think of off the top of my head. If I had to just choose one, I would probably go with the moment Bobasu was lassoing Randy and using him as a weapon while also trying to tame him. She had a very um, strange relationship with him at first, where she was like, am I keeping him, am I killing him? She was just throwing him into monsters and bullets and stuff, and I really didn't know where to go with that at first, so I'm glad she made a decision and chose to befriend him more. Other than that, of course, you guys are Team Whip, obviously. Everyone's pretty much got a whip power. And when Courtney's character, Zen, tried to whip onto the giant creature from the ceiling, the tentacle beast, and of course got sent sailing across the room as she tried to lasso something like 100 times her size. That was whimsical as well.
All right, so let's talk NPCs. Who do we need to know, and who are your key NPCs?
So the key NPCs to know, especially for the party right now, of course, it would be Iris. Iris is who they met right off the bat in the storyline. She is a young med student who has a hit out on her. She supposedly witnessed something that is warranting her death. She does not know what she witnessed. She's sworn up and down she's got no clue. The party has interrogated her 5 different ways and have all kind of come to the same conclusion that she truly is clueless. Based on the interactions with Iris too, she definitely is your average college student. She isn't very worldly and sometimes does put herself in danger. She has referenced her uncle, who is a PI, and that's how she had heard rumors that your organization existed. And she was hoping that you would protect her as fellow magical beings. Other than Iris, the next one to know would definitely be Frank. Frank is the mobster that you guys have been working with, or a gangster, I guess we should say. Cyberpunk crime lord, whatever title we want to give him right now, as he's ever growing in power. You recently took out his competition, who now is kind of irrelevant at this point because she's dead. And so his power is only growing, which of course is a nice little victory for you guys, because the more influence he has, the more he can do for you. And he currently is in very good standing with you guys. He likes you guys. He's told you that you're family. So you have a very unlikely yet powerful ally amongst you. Other than that, big names in the community would be like Pratt. Pratt had been on the news several times. He is one of the owners of the 3 major companies, which are the VIPs, of course, and Pratt owns Pratt's Protective Equipment, which essentially is defensive and offensive equipment. So pretty much if you were to fight someone who is a police force member or somebody who is security in the VIP district, more often than not, they're going to be equipped with Pratt's grade of equipment, which is pretty much the cutting edge. So think of him as like the Apple of armaments, for our own world's sake. Yes. You guys have actually found him in a cryogenic chamber, and have decided to keep him on ice. He did slightly thaw and open his eyes for a moment, but whether he actually saw anyone or anything like that, you're not sure of. Other than that, currently, for NPCs, I mean, obviously, like there's Randy we talked about, who is the bat rat that has been adopted and is slowly being tamed. He is a magical creature, one of the creatures that exist that usually hunt magical beings. Um, so that could be interesting to see what happens with him. Other than that, you don't really have anyone in particular that is currently known to the party slash involved with the party. The only other major thing I would mention is that Wendy has been mentioned on the news as well, and she is a childhood actress in this world who right now is a teen, and she has been missing. She went missing around the same time that Pratt did. So, oh, and other than Pratt, there's also Jade, who is Pratt's wife, who is still missing.
So you mentioned a couple of your favorite moments with with your players surprising you. Are there any other favorite moments that you have that has occurred?
Oh, definitely. So I would say Ray definitely gets one as well, because when Ray was just like, "Hey, instead of coffee, let's do dinner," with yeah, I did not expect that response out of Ray, and it kind of opened a whole new like section to Ray's personalities slash like potential plot arcs. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. And as we saw how the date went, yeah, it did kind of show there's some potential there. So yes, that one would definitely be one of my favorites. Other than that, the most recent one that was very fun to witness was Tuck sweating it out in his little cyber battle against Crane, which was very cool and very fast-tracked, honestly, because had you met Crane in the real world and tried to physically beat them, Crane was quite powerful. And so to have Tuck be able to cyber attack and basically destroy the AI remotely was a pretty big flex for the party.
All right. Any last minute comments you want to give us before we turn it over to viewer questions?
I guess the only other comment I would have about the game is that it's clearly a labor of love. You guys might notice some tweaking on things as we go along, because, you know, like everything else that's good in life, it's never finished.
Right.
So there might be gentle tweaks here and there, but for the most part, expect the players to just get more powerful and for things to get pretty off the rails crazy. Like once we hit the next tier, because right now you guys are only magical form 2. Once you hit magical form 3 is when everyone gets their signature move, and so your signature move is going to be essentially your ultimate. So yeah.
All right, chat, this is now the time where you can ask your questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free. Can be about anything about the game or whatever.
Insert crickets here.
Yep. I mean, not totally surprised, but
I mean, this is like in the middle of the day, so.
It is too.
Oh, there, Courtney. Any plans to mass produce or release the game to the public?
Eventually, maybe, with question marks everywhere. I always get asked that question, and I've only posted about my game like twice on the internet, like asking people questions and stuff. And every time I do, they're like, "Just share it with the community so we can all have it." And I'm just like, "Yeah, not quite there yet, but eventually, probably."
Insert crickets again.
Yep, I'm okay with it. Any plans for future campaigns? Okay, so I obviously have talked about how I've run a high fantasy campaign before. The Cyberpunk one obviously is like a low fantasy campaign because magic exists, but it's not everywhere. Um, I've talked about how I wanted to do a vampire one. That one would be very dark and gritty. I don't know if everyone would be up to that. That would be like a one-on-one conversation probably with each individual because it would be very difficult. I also wanted to do a space one at one point, so I have that one literally all just like set up and sitting on the side. Gentech. Do you like the not knowing where the human element is going to take things? Yes, I always keep my plans pretty loose. So I'll have like a world plot. I'll have like my regional plots, you know, say it's like continental or whatever. And then I will have like my character plots. And I always keep them in their own little verses. They can obviously like entwine with major parts of stories and stuff like that. But I try to keep them separate. That way you don't get railroaded into anything. And the player can freely explore. My jamming style is definitely very open world, like make your choice. And I guess a big point of that I would also mention is that don't expect to be able to do everything that's going on in the world all at once, and don't be surprised when you hear that events have unfolded while you were doing something else, because it definitely happens all the time.
The world still goes on while we're
exactly.
doing something else.
Facts.
Right. Courtney has another question. How far in advance do you plan NPC plots?
So pretty much as soon as I make the NPC, their storyline is like laid out. So if you have met someone, they have a whole plot arc. If they have been referenced, they have a whole plot arc. Yeah, the only time that I have to make something on like the down low or whatever is like when I give you guys the opportunity to create an NPC contact that you might have known, or somebody that was part of your past. And even then, technically, because they know you, part of their life has already been planned out. So,
has a player ever completely overhauled your plans for the NPC? That's probably a given for every GM.
yeah. As Courtney definitely knows, there is one character who very likely will make cameos in some of the campaigns, depending on how many we do. Her name is Hestia, and she was actually an NPC that was in a fight designed to die. She was a 2-hit kill, and that was going to be it. And literally, the players managed to keep her alive during the fight by like physically wrestling the attacker to the ground and like literally keeping one of them in the corner, healing her, while the other one just literally kind of broke the other dude's neck.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I had been trying to kill her for quite a while, just because she really wasn't supposed to exist. So I was kind of like went for her when they made poor life choices. I should also say that campaign had a lot of like cult activity and stuff like that. So there was a lot of abductions going on in the plot line. So whenever they would make themselves unpopular in a location, and they would send Hestia out to deal with people instead because she was a neutral, unaffiliated party, I usually did try to kidnap her or have her like spirited away, or like, yeah, so they eventually turned her into a god and she became literally untouchable, and then they tiered her up as a god because they just wanted to make sure she really was never touched. So she is literally all father powerful, like she's her own like pantheon leader, and that's how that went.
Nice. Okay, so I have a question. Going back to when we were talking about any plans for talking about releasing the game to the public and future campaigns. Would you be okay with someone in the future taking the GM reins from you for like a campaign, or for like either one shot or a campaign using your system?
Yes, as long as things were done properly, because I did have a player who actually sat at my table and stole my game and I found out about it. And so I did have like a little drama, and which is why I'm kind of very protective of the materials and don't send out a lot, because I actually have had it stolen once before. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking about
yeah,
like,
but if like
little...
if you're asking like for the stream purposes, if I was willing to let someone else GM using the rubric and then me be a player at the table, is that the question? Yes. Okay. So then at that point, yeah, I would have no problems with that. You know what I mean? It's like, because obviously I'd be in the know and we're all in on it, and it's whatever.
All right. So Jen made a comment that translates to NPC lives always in my book. And Courtney had another question. Have there been any small events that were never found that you wished were?
Yes. So Courtney has played at multiple of my tables and campaigns. So I am known for hiding plot bombs in the world that just like may or may not ever be stumbled upon, and you could just find yourself accidentally triggering what they refer to as a plot bomb. And it could be a serendipitous moment where you find out that someone else's storyline connects with your past actions, and that you might have been the cause of all their suffering, for an example. That was one plot bomb that they had in the storyline. And yes, so I do have things like that buried throughout the world, and kind of just waiting to go off randomly. And there are a few that have never been found that I was sad about, but you can't be too mad about it, because the ones that do get found are beautiful, and when they realize and it all comes together and it's that just serendipitous moment, it's perfection. So
Ooh, now I'm like giddy for plot bombs.
yes. Yeah.
How long is it till Saturday?
Couple days, we're almost there. Sure. Oh yeah, Shug and Bartholomew. That was one of the biggest ones they got hit with. That was the Shug slap, as everyone referred to it as. They had found out that they had, yes, this was in the high fantasy campaign. They had found a freshly turned zombie at one point in the beginning of the storyline, and they had one player try to turn it into their pet, basically. And then eventually sold the zombie off, only to find out that one of the lead NPCs of the plot was the wife of the zombie that they had found, and that they had been attacked, and that the husband had sacrificed himself so she could escape. And then they had to roll for a charisma check to hold their composure as she was just pouring her heart out and telling them all this, and they realized that they were definitely involved, and they rolled a nat 1. And so the person basically just had a soul crush vomit of, oh my god, I'm so sorry, we sold him off into slavery, and blah 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 blah, blah, and all kinds of stuff. So it didn't go well. It did not go well for them. Yes.
No.
It was perfection.
Oh. All right. Any more questions?
You did kind of fix it, but it was not easy, that's for sure. It created its own whole issue.
Oh.
And I think that is another point I would bring up too. A lot of people, when they're role playing or new to the table, they're always like, I'm afraid to mess it up. I'm afraid to mess it up. I don't want to make a mistake. And that's not obviously what RP is really about. You know, and so I'm always like, yeah, I get it. You know, you want things to go perfectly, but if something falls apart or doesn't go as planned, that's just more opportunity. You know, yeah, it becomes part of the story.
You can make a whole lot out of nat 1s as well as you can with nat 20s and whatnot.
Sits on a pile of dead PCs. Yeah, Courtney's the reason why there's a life limit in my campaigns usually. And if you die too many times, you're just out of the campaign, because she was rotating through characters like every week, to the point where I even stopped reading her backstories and their names. And I was like, if they survive 2 sessions, I will learn their name, and they did not. That was a journey for her for a while.
Ouch.
I think she got like 8 or 9 in before she got somebody she was able to keep alive.
It wasn't intentional.
She kind of, she's the character that puts her hand in the blender. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll say 1 more minute. If there's any other questions, we'll let it come through. If not, then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but Boba, seemed very hesitant at first. She was one of those people who'd be like, "I want it to go perfect." And
She's
like,
so
"That's not how
new.
Boba, like,
She's never RP'd
she's so
before.
precious."
Yes, yes. And of course, because she's new and like untainted by it, she definitely does some out of the box shit that you're like, okay, you know, like let's go for it. Let's see, like wrap that whip around that bat and throw him into a turret. Like what could go wrong? Like, you know.
Like one of my favorite lines, because I've also been a GM, is, "Well, you can certainly try."
Yes, exactly.
You can. There's like, "Can I do this?" Well, you can try.
Yep.
Go ahead, go try.
Yeah.
She really is good at it. I'm surprised by Boba, but when she said that she's never,
never role played and stuff.
Before.
And it's kind of amazing too because she is so animated and like it's definitely natural for her. So she'll be a hardcore, like, you know, role player by the time we're done.
Oh, totally.
She'll be doing the circuit and be at 5 tables.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Rotate characters, different personalities.
Yeah, keep good notes.
Oh, always. Always. Just because Syrin takes notes and knows things does not mean the character. Anyway, I'd say since we haven't really had any other questions, that this would be a good place to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody who did come. If anybody's came in at the tail end and missed something, fear not. This will be posted on the YouTube channel tomorrow by 12 p.m. Eastern time. And also at the same time, the most recent 2 episodes of Cyber Age of Magic will also be posted on the YouTube channel at the same time. So if you are not caught up and you don't know what's going on, really, you have time to catch up. It's only like 3-4 hour streams. Plenty of time to get caught up before Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I was like, now on that note, I feel guilty, and I was like, should I give a quick recap of like the events that have happened real quick?
I mean, if you want to give a quick recap, we can. I mean, there's
okay, so this would be the warning for anyone who is watching this in the future, who might want to go back and watch the videos on their own. We are missing episode 1 and 2, which is why I will at least give a recap of that. So here's your chance right now, and aka spoilers ahead. So the story started with Iris barging into the repair shop, asking for help with her bike. They examined her motorcycle and saw that it was very badly damaged, which then segued into her pursuers coming in and starting a fight. The party fought them off, learned that Iris was being followed. She didn't understand why and just needed their help, and knew them through her uncle, who had heard rumors that they were a magical being group. The party did try to get the uncle involved at first, and Iris basically convinced them by explaining how her uncle is kind of a shit show, that he would probably be unhelpful and possibly make things worse. So they took it upon themselves to begin investigating, which led them to partnering up with our friend Frank, While working with Frank and upgrading their facility, they had accepted a job to go underground and pillage some equipment that had been left behind during we're going to call it a sinkhole event. But it was massive, that happened in Terror City. Allegedly, experiments had caused it, but everyone, including the government, is claiming that it's all natural and it was just a tragedy. While the party was down there, they were confronted by a creature that was massive from the ceiling, made of tendrils and one giant eyeball. They pretty much fought that guy off, and in the process had found the cryogenic chamber that had Pratt in it, who's been missing and is the leader of the weapons slash armaments company of the world, basically. They escaped the collapsing building, made their way back through the tunnels, and then discovered that really there was no rescue efforts being done in the region that supposedly was being rescued, as they emerged from the fallout, and had no problems. There was no security, nothing. No one bothered to stop them. They were just able to walk in and out. Other than that, they had returned home. They did a side job for Frank, which involved a quick date and a little side of hacking and murder, ending in a party and a piñata that may or may not have been made out of the body of Frank's enemy, which then Ray stayed at the party and played Whack the Piñata, Ray now being the favored party member by the gang. And yeah, they basically returned home with the information that the person who had put a hit on Iris is named Heather and works for the Corp. So that's where they had left off.
All right. Thank you for your time today.
Of course. Thank you for doing the interview process, and working on those questions and everything. And thank you guys for joining us and being here and asking the questions you've been holding on to. Appreciate it. And I think we're good to go. Mm-hmm. All right. See you guys later. Bye.